of an important 11-game stretch for the Mets. They had 4 in Washington, D.C., and they went 2-2. They won the first 2, lost the last 2, and there's some talking points from each one of those games here, and we will do that on the Queen's Connection, episode number 24, a production of Patton Sports Creative. I am your host, Andrew Patton, joined by the co-host, Corne Hogeveen. Corne, 2 fun games, and then 2 games that maybe want to make you pull your hair out a little bit. So, how are you doing after those 4 games in Washington?
Not that bad. On the road, 2-2. I think besides maybe the last game, which I wasn't able to watch, so that's maybe why I am a little less, heartbroken because I wasn't able to watch the last one, which probably with the offense I have heard wasn't the best one. So yeah, still 2-2. I think you take it on the road. Now time to face some tough pitchers in Pittsburgh. So let's see how they're doing there.
Yes, you talk about those tough pitchers they are going to be facing in Pittsburgh. We will get into that later in the show. Uh, but we talk about a theme from this Mets team this year that wasn't getting a lot of length from their starting pitching. But in this series, they definitely did get some length from their starting pitching. It all started on Monday in a 9-7 win in extra innings. Did get a little dicey at the end. You think you score 6 runs in the 10th inning, you're sitting pretty. But not with this Mets bullpen at the moment. But anyway, they were able to pull it out, a 9-7 win over the Nationals to start this 4-game series. And I alluded to a good start from their starting pitcher. That was David Peterson, who went 6 and a third, 7 hits, 2 runs that were both earned, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. But David Peterson, a nice rebound from that weird outing against the Yankees where he wasn't able to get 5 innings, but he had 8 strikeouts. This one, the strikeout numbers obviously not as high, but he pitched into the 7th inning, which is something the Mets need at this moment. I thought David Peterson looked very, very good. Made some adjustments on the mound. Looked like maybe the Nationals were kind of on some stuff early with some hard hit balls, but much later in the game, Peterson got a lot of soft contact. I know I kind of gave my opinion, and I'm sure you might feel the same way. But is there anything that you took away from David Peterson's outing?
Yeah, got a lot of ground balls, kept the ball down. He has he has had that type of outings this year where his strikeouts were down, but he got quick outs and in between some. It's a little bit weird. Um, it's like pick your best. High strikeouts obviously nice, but I think with that with him pitching down, with that fastball down, and I would take a nice ground ball day, which it was for David. 6 and a third innings, 2 runs. I definitely was very pleased with that. So um, good to see out of David Peterson.
No doubt about that. And the Mets got down early in this game, 2-0, but they fought their way back to get a 3-2 lead. Thanks to some big hits from the baby Mets who are growing up, Mark Vientos and Francisco Alvarez. Washington did tie it on a weird play in right field from Tyrone Taylor. It looked like the ball kind of jutted away. So that's how the Nationals got their tying run in. And then the Mets exploded in the 10th inning off Hunter Harvey with home runs from JD Martinez uh, and Jose Iglesias. There was the big triple from Francisco Alvarez. So the offense, yet again, it took a little bit. We got to give credit where credit's due to Mackenzie Gore, who we know is a very tough left-hander. Um, but the offense, once the Nats bullpen got into the game, they were able to put some bat on ball, and a couple balls went a long way. So, just kind of more what we saw from this Mets offense, where um, when they need it, they were able to get it.
Yeah, definitely. And then don't forget that Hunter Harvey is a pretty darn good reliever. So getting that against him in the 10th inning was huge. Mackenzie Gore, when he's on, he's a tremendous arm. So you can see that you will have some games against him where you hit him fairly well, but you can also see that you have some games against him where you don't do a lot. But still, Peterson kept us in it. Got some clutch two-out RBIs, a clutch two-out RBI hit from Vientos, and the Mets making another error proved costly, which they did on Sunday. Um, they also did on Monday with CJ Abrams' error, which was followed by Alvarez two-run double. So that's still a thing that I see in this Mets ball club when um, making other teams pay for mistakes. Even with the losses we had, I think overall we do see some clutch hitting, which is good. And Taylor, that weird hop in the outfield, they saved him his first career error, which I thought was interesting. Could be an error, although it took a weird hop. Could be an error.
I think it's just good old fashioned hometown scoring right there. Give him the single and the RBI and all that good stuff. And like we said, it got a little dicey in the 10th. The Nationals put together four to make it a 9-7 game. Reed Garrett had to come in for Tyler J to finish it off. So the Mets win the opener in DC by a score of 9-7. Go to game two of this series, a game that I felt was played out pretty similarly to that first game. A 7-2 Mets win in 10 innings. But it was another case where the national starter uh, was very solid. The Mets offense wasn't able to generate too much until it got later into his outing. That was DJ Hers for the Nationals, as Washington again took a 2-0 lead against Sean Manaea, who was very good in this game, I thought. Um, Gave the Mets 7 innings, so again, length, 5 hits, 2 runs, only one was earned, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. I thought Sean looked good. We'll get into him in a second. But like I said, no, this game played out very similarly to the first game of this series. The Mets offense did get it going in the sixth, a home run from Lindor. Fast forward to the eighth, Brandon Nimmo, who came off the bench for an injured Harrison Bader with a big hit to tie the game. And then the 10th inning, the Mets offense exploded yet again with a big hit from Jose Iglesias, Nimmo. Uh, Vientos got in on it with a single, Alonso with the 2-run homer to really put the icing on the cake. So a solid 7-2 win for the Mets. So let's go back to Sean. I gave the stat line there. They asked him, best start as a Met this year, and he thought it was. He thought he threw the ball very well. I thought he did too. Some solid performance here from Sean Manaea. What did you take away from his outing?
Yeah, definitely. If you consider that the Mets infield defense had a pretty bad game, I would say, behind Shamanaya, to be able to allow just two, obviously one earned, and go seven was really good because yeah, he actually needed to work a little bit harder with. I think he had 3 plays behind him that could have been made um, on the infield. The infield defense was bad on that full game in the ninth inning. Another misplay with Jose Buto on the mound, which luckily didn't prove to be costly, but some of the infield defense did. So great to see a lot of strikes. Maybe a little bit have to be a little bit honest, but maybe got some help here and there by Larry Vanover behind the plate, who was a true pitcher's umpire that day on both sides, by the way. But some some calls you could have been the other way around. So that definitely, on the other end, helped him to go seven. But overall, he was tremendous. If Shamanai is able to throw strikes, he's actually a really good pitcher. And we have seen that all year, and we saw it again on Tuesday.
And another note from this game, you mentioned his name. Jose Buto got recalled from AAA Syracuse to get the Mets some length out of the bullpen. He did that. He pitched 2 innings, had a strikeout, had a couple base runners, a hit, a walk, um, but he looked really good out of the bullpen, and he does pick up the win in this outing. So good for Jose Buto. And you talk about throwing strikes. Sean Manaea, 97 pitches, 64 of them were strikes. so he was in the zone. Maybe sometimes was outside the zone, but Larry Vanover said it was in the zone. But we'll take that. No doubt about that. So a big 7-2 win for the New York Mets. And let's just talk on Jose Iglesias because he's just been the toast of the town lately with the song, and he's getting some big hits for this team. Um, and something I noticed, and they kind of talk about it on the broadcast. So I'm curious to get your thoughts. Is the bat speed just to the naked eye? It looks like it's very quick. And they talked about at AAA Syracuse when JD Martinez was there, kind of working his way up to the big leagues. These weighted bats to create more bat speed. And it looks like it's definitely paying off for Jose Iglesias. They even flashed the numbers, his AAA numbers from, before JD Martinez got there to when JD Martinez got there and afterwards, and the OPS difference is huge. Um, so just is this Jose Iglesias run of sorts, with the way Jeff McNeil has been playing, I mean, I think it's fair to say right now, if there's a lefty on the mound, I think Iglesias is going to be playing, but there's going to be a lot of conversation or of should Jose Iglesias be the everyday second baseman right now for the Mets, who are in a chase for a wild card spot. So I'm just curious to get your thoughts on that because I think that's going to be a conversation that's going to be bantered about if it hasn't already.
Yeah. So far, I haven't seen enough uh, to justify a lot of optimism for Jeff McNeil. If I see Jeff McNeil taking some better at bats, hitting the ball somewhat harder overall, I think you hope that the better player um, in Jeff McNeil, who I overall think has a better career than Jose Iglesias and has been a better player, obviously, over the last couple of years, um, gets all the opportunities to ride himself. Um, but it has to be in the back of their minds at some point, with how McNeil is immensely struggled over a long time right now. So um, and Iglesias being on the other end been red hot. So it's difficult. I do believe that we are in a wildcard chase right now. If we weren't, I would definitely try to get McNeil going. But right now we are in a wildcard race, so I definitely see the Mets going for the hot hand, and I think they at some point should. Although it's hard for McNeil to get out of this major slump without playing. Um, I think at some point you just have to. The numbers are just very, very bad for Jeff McNeil. I think probably one of the worst everyday players right now in the league. So it's about it's starting to get more and more time that switch is being made.
Something I'll pose to you. I'm sure you get into this later in your minor league minute, but I saw an article, someone making the case that if Luis Angel Acuna keeps up at this pace that he's in at AAA, that he should be considered for a call up and to get second base reps. Is that something you think is possible? Something you think that the organization should consider? I'm just wondering because, like we said, they're in a wild card race. And Acuna has been swinging the bat a lot better lately in AAA Syracuse. Is that a move you think is on the Mets' radar? Do you think they want to kind of wait and see on things, or what do you think about a potential Luis Angel Acuna call up?
It's definitely on their radar. I think if you ask before the season if Acuna will be part of the major league roster this year, I think a lot of Mets fans and Mets brass would say yes. He struggled mightily early on. I think the first 2 months were obviously not good, which still reflects in the overall numbers for Acuna. I have to see. I do have to see more before I'll promote him. He has a good month. Let's make it 2.5 good months, and then I would consider it because I do think it's a type of player I don't want to rush. um, because I think he still has some overall holes in his game. Um, and even when he's hot, the batting average is nice. The on base percentage is nice because mostly of the batting average. Not a guy who necessarily walks a ton. So his batting average has to be high, but I think we also have to take into account that a 315 batting average in AAA could easily be a 270. And I take that out of Lewis and Galacuna, don't get me wrong, but um, I think it's a little bit. I think he is the type of player that it's dicey because he has to um, have a high batting average. He needs to be a high batting average type of player to be a successful player. Um, on the other hand, and now I'm just, this isn't that I wrote this up, so things are coming into my mind while I'm talking. On the other hand, Luis Angel Acuna, if he is brought up, he's not um, a run through 5, 6, 7, 8 hitter. He's probably will be our ninth hitter, which obviously takes a little bit of pressure out of being the big hitter guy. So that obviously helps his case to be part of this major league ball club. Yeah, to put a ribbon on it, I think it's definitely in the back of their minds, and I think definitely they're keeping a close eye on Acuna over the next couple of weeks, probably until after the All Star break, early August, um, to maybe be part of the Mets uh, last couple of months.
Well, yeah, I think another thing to consider too is if you're putting Jeff McNeil out there, against right-handers or whatever, whenever Jeff McNeil's in the lineup, which it kind of pains me to say this a little bit because I like Jeff McNeil, uh, but is the production at Luis Angel Acuna, can he do any worse than what Jeff McNeil's been doing of late? So there's also that factor. But then Jeff McNeil, I don't think the Mets are going to move McNeil this year anyway. I don't. I think if there's any activity with McNeil, I personally think it's probably going to be in the off season. Uh, so Jeff McNeil would become a pretty expensive utility guy off the bench, which is fine. He has that versatility to play everywhere. It's just kind of a shame to pay $12.5 million for someone to sit on the bench and come in late in games for defense or whatever. So, but
1 year left after this year, right? Or two for Jeff.
well, I can look that up. I can tee you up for something. I'll look that up. Uh,
Yeah.
No, but I feel like it's at least 2 more years, but I could be
Mhm.
wrong. We will figure it out for sure. But anyway, so after a 7-2 win for the Mets on Tuesday, they go into Wednesday for the return of Christian Scott to the major leagues. Scott, no, would look pretty good. Obviously, maybe a little bit towards the end, he got a little tired, but he had a nice 5-0 lead to work with in this game, thanks to some home runs from Tyrone Taylor, Mark Vientos, and Francisco Lindor. So the Mets were up 5-0 after their top half of the fifth inning. The Nationals did start to chip away. They got a run in the fifth, and then in the sixth inning, when maybe Christian Scott was a little bit out of gas, but at this point with the Mets bullpen, you're going to try to get as much as you can out of your starters. Unfortunately, he was taken deep by an underrated Met killer in Luis Garcia Jr. So the Nationals quickly made it a one-run game. And then we have to give credit where credit's due. Adam Ottavino came in and pitched a nice, solid inning for them, innings work. And then Jake Diekman came into the game, and the struggles for Diekman have continued here. A lot of the damage done against him with two strikes, so that inability to put guys away, unfortunately, was there for Diekman. The Nationals tied it on a double from Lane Thomas. Next batter, James Wood, singles for his first career RBI. So the Nationals take a 6-5 lead. Ty Adcock comes on the pitch the eighth. Luis Garcia Jr. takes him deep, so a 2 home run game for Luis Garcia Jr. And the Mets are finished off in the top half of the ninth. So the Nationals climb out of a 5-0 hold to beat the Mets 7-5. Let's get to Christian Scott. Like we said, first start in the major leagues in a little over a month. Um, 5 and 2/3, 6 hits, 4 runs, all of which were earned, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. What'd you take away from Christian Scott?
I think he was fine. Obviously, we all saw that he was a little bit gassed in the minor leagues. We told in this podcast as well that he didn't necessarily go very deep. So that's obviously part of him getting tired, but also to ramp it up and to get back to being, six or so innings pitcher, you have to do it. So I don't mind the Mets in this situation trying um, to get six out of him. Obviously, it didn't work, but yes, sometimes moves don't work. Sometimes good moves don't work. So I won't second guess the Mets on that. Overall, I thought it threw the ball well. It's low in strikeouts. I don't remember if the Nets were aggressive against him, so swinging early in counts. Not really sure if that was the case, but um, I didn't necessarily saw a lot of hard contact. So either way, I think he pitched well. Besides the low strikeouts, but low strikeouts not something I'm necessarily used to with Christian Scott. So that's the thing to keep an eye on. Um, and the home run ball again. That's been an issue for the whole year, also in AAA. When I do the Max minor league minute, I joke around with guessing how the runs would scored, and mostly it's home runs. So um, that's a thing that Christian Scott has to work on, because if you allow a lot of home runs, at some point you're gonna allow him with runners on base, and that's what happened, and that's what got the Nationals back into this game. Because then I think it was a one-run lead when Christian Scott left, which is obviously for every bullpen outing, it's a difficult one to close out if your offense doesn't score.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Obviously, a bit of a disappointing loss here. You figure the Mets are up 5-0. You're feeling pretty good about things, and just kind of came apart at the end, especially in that seventh inning when Jake Diekman came into the game. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of this from Diekman of late. His last 7 outings, uh, he's pitched 4 1/3, 3 hits, 5 earned runs, 5 walks, 3 strikeouts. So more walks than strikeouts. He has a 1.85 WHIP. The ERA is 10.38 right now in those 7 outings for the last 7 outings for Jake Diekman. Um, like we talked about on the last episode, this is not really the spot the Mets envisioned for Jake Diekman when they signed him. That was just to be the second guy, to be the backup when Brooks Raley isn't available. But it's Brooks Raley who's not available for the rest of the year, so Jed puts more on Jake Diekman's, you know, it's more on his plate. Uh, but unfortunately, these last few outings when the game's tight, or anything like that, or I guess even when the game's not tight, because you think about that outing against the Padres, um, or I guess it was a tight game in that Padres game. I'm thinking of a different one. Uh, but overall, the overall point is it's hard to trust Jake Diekman right now in close games. I made the joke with you that I sent the picture of him and Scott Schoenweis, and I was like, I can't tell the difference between these two guys. But if the Mets are, approaching that July 30th trade deadline, it's July 30th, not July 31st. I don't know why, but that's what it is. Um, relievers are going to definitely be at the top of the list for needs for this team. How imperative is it that if they do acquire a reliever, that reliever is left-handed?
Yeah, you definitely need a second one. Um, Jake Diekman, and I keep saying this, but it's not just Jake, not just Luke Rayleigh, but I think we have seen when Edwin Diaz went down with the injury, that after Diaz went down, the bullpen struggled. I think that's the time when Adam Ottavino started struggling. Um, so it shows how one arm, being hurt in a bullpen has an effect on others. Uh, their roles change. They get more pressure on them, and Diekman probably feels it because it's not going well. So um, probably maybe a little bit of a mental thing because his stuff is good enough to be better. We know the walks will always be there, but the stuff is good enough for Jake Diekman to be able to get some big outs. Um, so it's hard, but definitely the trade deadline. We will definitely see some reliever help for the Mets. I think probably the most uh, obvious thing that the Mets are gonna do is bullpen help. I
Yeah,
don't think they're gonna do anything more, honestly, than bullpen help.
I would agree with that, and obviously we hope the Mets are still in a position where they are going to be acquiring arms. There's still some games to be played up until that point, so anything can happen as we know. I mean, who expected this big run the Mets went on? So they could easily, unfortunately, just the way baseball is, they could easily start to slip a little bit and whatnot. But no, obviously we don't hope for that. We hope that they're in it and that they're upgrading the team. But we talked about Diekman in those walks, 21 walks in 26 and two-thirds innings this year. So three hit batters as well. So just some free base runners, and it's part of his game. We knew that. It's just unfortunate because they're coming at very inopportune times. So for Jake Diekman, so that's uh, that's our little segment here on Jake Diekman. Jeff McNeil contract update for you. He's got 2 more guaranteed years, and then there's a club option. So
Yeah, the clock function is not going.
no, no, I don't think so.
So after after this year, 2 more years. All right.
Yep, that is the that is your latest with Jeff McNeil's contract status here on the Queens Connection. So the Mets
Something else.
drop a little bit of a heartbreaker against the Nationals on Wednesday night. Then we go to a Thursday afternoon game, or not even Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning, 11:05 a.m. in Washington D.C. for the July 4th game, and Mets offense must have slept through their alarms because they were a bit of a no show here Thursday against the Nationals. Only one hit against Jake Irvin, who looked very, very good for Washington. The one hit came from Jeff McNeil, of course. So uh, the Mets do drop this one nothing thanks to a pinch hit home run from who else but Jesse Winker off Adrian Hauser after Jose Quintana gave the Mets 7 good innings of baseball here. 7 innings, 4 hits. Did have 3 walks, only 1 strikeout. Uh, but in a game in a situation where the Mets just need as much length as they can from their starters, we've been critical of Quintana because really 9 times out of 10 he hasn't done that, but he did in this game. So credit where credit is due for Jose Quintana. Uh, and just unfortunate the Mets were not able to take 3 of 4 from the Nationals, so they lose the finale 1-0, and just really not a whole lot to talk about in this one, in my opinion. I mean, we could get into Quintana, the 3 walks over the 1 strikeout, but that's kind of just he's not a big strikeout guy, so
Don't care about that with Jose Quintana. I do have to say that overall lately, Jose Quintana has been, besides maybe a couple of starts in between, Jose Quintana has been actually been pretty good. Uh, so that's good to see out of Jose. Definitely with the trading deadline coming up, and the Mets have some decisions to make in their rotation, who they're gonna keep, because starting pitching is a hot commodity. So I think we definitely will trade some of our starting pitching uh, rotation. I think Jose Buto is definitely a guy you can plug in into the rotation with ease and be pretty comfortable with that. So I think one of the 3 arms that probably will have a 1 year deal with the Mets, or at least in their last year, um, might be on another team with the Mets getting a nice prospect in return, and with Quintana pitching well. I think that's in that department also pretty huge. for the value what you might getting in return.
For sure. I think with the trading of an arm at the deadline, um, you got to look at it, especially like a Quintana. I kind of think, like you said, you have Jose Buto. We know Christian Scott's back up to major league level. We know Kodai Senga, who started a rehab assignment. I know you'll probably get into that with your minor league minute, but he's going to be here probably towards the end of the month or so. That's what they're hoping and expecting. Um, so you just kind of look at those guys. I mean, Lucchesi and AAA. We know McGill's down there. We've talked about McGill and given our thoughts, but it's a guy that they can plug into the rotation if need be. I guess you gotta kind of have to look at it as, if we do trade Quintana, are we going to lose any like value? Like what has Quintana been giving us? Can these guys give us what Jose Quintana has been giving us? And I'd say for the majority of those guys, they can give you what Jose Quintana has given you mostly this year. So if you can kind of maybe cash in on Jose Quintana at the trade deadline, maybe bring back, potentially some help in the bullpen if the team's willing to do that, or if you want to go for the prospect route or whatever, no, that's fine too. Um, so I think Quintana, if you look at the rotation, including the depth, if there was a guy I think could get traded, uh, I think it's probably him because I think the Mets, if they are still in it, I don't think they're going to want to move Severino. He's been their best pitcher all year. As much as like Severino would probably bring you back the most, I think the Mets would want to keep him. Um, I think Mania is probably going to stay. I would say unless you get a nice return from someone. But it makes me think like that Quintana, but between those three because they're all on those 1 year deals. I think Katana or excuse me, Mania is it a player option? I think he has next year or something like that. So, but
I
you know,
don't think he's going to take the player option,
it's
maybe,
probably
but
it's
I
probably
don't
for like
think.
12 million bucks, and I think he's probably pitched
Yeah,
a little bit better than 12 million
yeah,
bucks for next
exactly.
year. Um, but between those three guys, if they were likely to move one and they're still in it, I would say probably Quintana, just because I think there's guys in house that can give you the exact same results that he has given you overall this year.
I still think it depends on the return, but it could be Jose Quintana, but I think all those three guys are on the table. Um, and I probably, if you look at the um, what the Mets probably prefer um, in their um, in their run for wild card, obviously you want to keep Luis Severino, um, but I think it's not necessarily out of the question. It's not Luis Severino. I think you have a little bit of a different opinion about that than me, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets are getting calls for Luis Severino in this case, and the Mets get such a good um, such a good value-wise deal. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Luis Severino. If I would take my guess, I'm with you that it's probably gonna be Jose Quintana. Yes.
Well, Jose Quintana gave the Mets a good outing in this game. Unfortunately, the offense wasn't able to do much. Hauser came in to pitch the eighth inning, allowed the home run, and it was just like it was totally queued up because they flashed the stats on the broadcast when Jesse Winker came up. He's like 9 for 20 whatever against Adrian Hauser with 5 home runs, and like 2 pitches later, there it goes into the right field bleachers. So it was just like destined to like be like, well, now he's gonna hit a home run or something. And unfortunately, Jesse Winker did. So that's how that went on Thursday on the 4th of July. So the Mets go 2-2 in their 4 game series with the Washington Nationals. We take a look at the updated wild card standings here. Friday morning, July 5th. The Mets have some company in the wild card standings. They're 2.5 back, and so are the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are currently listed ahead of the Mets, even though the win percentage is the same. The Diamondbacks are 43 and 44, while the Mets are 42 and 43. So the Diamondbacks are technically ahead there, and only a half game behind are the San Francisco Giants, who took care of some business against the Atlanta Braves. The Reds are only a game back with the Mets. The Pittsburgh Pirates, who we'll be talking about shortly, They're just a little bit behind the Mets as well. So it's still bunched up. Unfortunately, some of the teams ahead of them, the Cardinals and the Padres, have been winning lately. So that's created a little bit of separation with these losses the past two games. But the Mets are still right there. Two and a half out. Obviously, not dead in the water. They're right there. Um, you know, just uh, just unfortunate for some opportunities where they could potentially jump up. They haven't been able to, but um, that's just kind of how it goes lately. So the Mets certainly still in the thick of things in this wild card race.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely not over, but we have to keep winning. That's most important. And I think two out of four at the Nationals ballpark. The Nationals are an underrated team. I think they have some good players, um, and they have some good starting pitching too, with a bullpen that's decent. There's also have some decent arms out there, and if you use your best 3 out of the 4 games, which Davey Martinez did with Hunter Harvey and Cal Finnegan. You're bound to lose one, unfortunately. I think the last game, it was just unfortunate. Cole Irvin does have a tremendous season, so it's not that Cole Irvin is nobody. I think before the game he had like 3.03 ERA, which is obviously pretty good. So it's not that they did it against nobody. Of course, I think that was still a game that you would like, not like um, the start at go eight, because we knew that some of the best Nationals relievers weren't available. So that was maybe a time to get the pitch count more up, but didn't happen. Cole Irvin, I didn't watch it, but probably was pretty darn good in control. So kudos to him. Kudos to a good pitcher. The Nationals will be a scary team, so it's not the couple of years ago Nationals. So if you asked me before the series if you would be okay with 2-2, I would say yes.
I would agree with that. I think it's just the way those last two games ended that kind of you know sticks in people's
Yeah,
craw a little bit. So
exactly. And you go down because you won the first two and then you lost the two after. Obviously, you look at it differently if it was the other way around.
yep, no question
But
about
moving
that.
on, a bad Pittsburgh bullpen. We have to do what we like to do in the last game, get to the Nationals bullpen. We have to get to the Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen.
For
But
sure.
we will probably go into that after the
Well,
minor league meeting.
I had a nice little thing set up for you, but I think it's a little bit too late now. Whatever I was gonna be like, well, those national pitchers developed in their minor league system, and the Mets are doing the same thing. So now, but oh well, you wanted to talk, so oh, oh well.
Ooh,
But
I
but
have to talk. You don't prepare this, Andrew, so I have to.
no, but I always like to give you a nice fancy setup, and I didn't feel like I feel like I couldn't squeeze it in there today, so that's just unfortunate. But you
Yeah.
do have a lot of good information to share with us.
Oh, as always. Dominican Summer League Mets. Rainer Reyes hit his fifth home run of the season in just 17 games. Edward Lantica went 2 for 5 with a triple, 3 runs batted in on Thursday. OPS is up to 764. 17-year-old Roy Baird Herrera went 4 for 5 with a double and RBI on Thursday. Solid 724 OPS for a 17-year-old third baseman. Jermaine Verdu pitched strong in relief with 2 1/3 scoreless innings, striking out 5. He now has 21 strikeouts over 17 and 2/3 innings. Florida Complex League Mets, Daniel Hurtado, the Cuban, pitched well over 3 innings of one-run ball, striking out 6. Still has a high ERA of 6.52 over 9 and 2/3 innings, but did record 17 strikeouts in that span. So definitely an interesting arm there in the Florida Complex League. Diverson Gutierrez had a bad day on Monday, collecting 3 errors behind the plate. Branny De Leon with a much needed good day, went 2 for 3 with a triple on Tuesday. DeAndre Smith played a rehab game with the Florida Complex League Mets and went 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs and a walk. 2022 fifth rounder has played just 6 total games this season. And Jonathan Hernandez is having a strong showing this year, went 2 for 4 on Thursday, now having an 818 OPS. Moving on to St. Lucie, the good and the bad for lefty Franklin Gomez. He went 6 and struck out 9, but did allow 5. The Mets picked up 24-year-old righty Eduardo Herrera from Colorado, and he has been good for St. Lucie. He struck out the side on Monday and has 12 strikeouts over 7 and 2/3 innings with the St. Lucie Mets with a 1.17 ERA. Colin Houck went 2 for 3 with an RBI on Tuesday. Jack Weniger was outstanding. He pitched 7 for the second time in his career. He allowed just 1 run on 7 hits, 2 walks while striking out 5. Still an arm I like. He has a 5.02 ERA, but a low 1.23 whip and 89 strikeouts over 71 and 2/3 innings. Johanro Cuevas had a nice day, going 3 for 3 with a double on Wednesday. He drove in 3 on Thursday, including the walk-off 2-run double. Left-handed hitting first baseman had struggled with a 201, 311, 265 slash line, but is just 20 years old. In St. Lucie, Christopher Gomez has been good lately. He struck out 5 over 2 scoreless innings on Wednesday, hasn't allowed a run since the 7th of June, spanning 10 and a third innings, striking out 13. Moving on to Brooklyn, the Cyclones collected 4 hits on Monday, with 2 from the best hitter, Nick LaRusso. And they wasted a good outing from Jonathan Pintaro. The 24-year-old the Mets just picked up is having a solid pro start. He went 5 scoreless innings, allowing 3 hits and 2 walks with 7 strikeouts. Jonathan was strong again after his tremendous outing last week. He went 5 scoreless, allowing just 1 hit, 2 walks with 7 strikeouts, 3.02 ERA with Brooklyn, and 99 strikeouts over 66 and a third innings for the season between Brooklyn and St. Lucie. New Jersey native Ben Simon went 3 scoreless innings, striking out team 3. Has been a difficult year for the 2023 13th rounder. Junior Tillian had a good day on Tuesday, hitting his 4th home run of the year in a 3 for 4 day. Wilfredo Lara had a nice series. He hit his 4th of the year, went 2 for 4 with a home run and a double, driving in 2. Followed it with a 2 for 3 day the next day. Kodai Senga was perfect in his rehab outing, striking out 6 in 2 and a third, 2/3 innings. He looked healthy and reached 98 miles an hour. And note that his next rehab start will probably be at Syracuse, so that's a pretty good sign that he's already making a rehab start in AAA. Senga was relieved by Kate Morris, who was splendid, throwing 6 and a third scoreless innings. He allowed just 4 hits, walked 4, but struck out 7. He's lowered his ERA to 3.86. And Binghamton, JT Schwartz is his 4th home run of the year, followed by a 2-double, 3-hit day, quietly having a strong season with an 822 OPS for Binghamton. Tyler Stewart was tremendous over 7 innings of 2-run ball. He allowed just 4 hits and a walk and struck out 11. Alex Ramirez had a strong day, going 3 for 4 with a double and 3 runs batted in on Tuesday. Stanley Consuegra with his first 2-hit day for Binghamton, going 2 for 5 with a double and an RBI. Shintaro Fujinami threw a scoreless innings with 2 strikeouts, so he is getting closer to maybe a return and maybe being part of the Mets bullpen. Kevin Parada and Jeremiah Jackson homered on Wednesday, both still struggling overall but showing some power. Ryan Clifford had his first career 4-hit day with his 10th home run, a double and 3 runs batted in, now hitting .213 with an 873 OPS, and matches futures game representative Brandon Sprout went 6 innings, allowing 2 solo home runs, striking out 9, 2.05 ERA for the young Sprout in Binghamton. Syracuse, Mike Brousseau hit 2 home runs in a Syracuse loss on Monday. He has hit 10 home runs in 47 games with Syracuse. Mike Fassel had another Mike Fassel type start, 6 innings, 3 runs. 2 hits Tuesdays for Acuna, Beatty, Thomas, and Hudson. Hudson, who we saw briefly wearing number 57, went 2 for 3 with a home run. Beatty also collected a 2-hit day on Wednesday. Pablo Reyes just keeps raking since the Mets acquired him. Another 2 for 4 day with 4 RBIs, hitting a seventh home run. Bryce Montes the Oka allowed 2 solo shots, getting 2 outs in his return to AAA. And both Ritter and Bannon homered on Thursday. The cap is a little big in favor of Bannon right now, 870 versus 836 on the OPS. Jomo Sanchez homered as well for a 3-1 bump. He drove in 4 on Thursday. And it was more enough for Joey Fuego. Lucchesi went 7 innings of 1-run ball, striking out 5. That was it.
I just love that ending. Like that's it. That's over. It's over with. Done.
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 Can throw it out. Throw my notes out.
You just rip them up and all that.
Yeah, then no, just throw it out.
Just
It's
throw it.
easier to pick.
Well, hopefully, this upcoming series with the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Mets will be. Well, I guess I was gonna say throwing out the Pirate starter, but that doesn't really work, because throwing out means like they got ejected, whatever. Which that's not the Mets doing, that's the umpires doing. So couldn't be creative there, unfortunately. Oh well, that's fine.
That's exactly the reason why I messed it up for you recently
You you,
before my
you messed with
podcast.
my creative juices today.
Hey, no, you actually, if people look at the title when they listen to our podcast, it's mostly pretty good. I have to be kind
Wow.
for once against you and
Well,
say that.
I will say that today's title is not very creative. I couldn't think of anything. I'm off my game today.
Then it's not my fault, Andrew. So don't blame me for that.
No, I'm still gonna blame me anyway.
All right.
Uh,
Yeah, sounds about right.
all right. Well, the Mets
Well,
got. Oh, go ahead.
no, I want to say go ahead to you.
Well, the Mets have a four-game series yet again, a wraparound weekend series with the Pittsburgh Pirates. It starts tonight at 6:40 with a good pitching matchup between Luis Severino and Paul Skeens. This will be a tough task for the New York Mets offense. So if they got one hit yesterday, you're upset about that. Well, it's possible it could repeat itself again. So we shall see what
Oh,
happens tonight.
we're gonna beat them up, which is good for the Mets and bad for your fantasy team.
I got both these guys on my fantasy team.
Then I hope for a nice 10-7 Mets win.
I'm just going to ignore that and move on to Saturday, where it's going to be David Peterson against Bailey Falter, a 4:05 first pitch, so a battle of lefties there. Bailey Falter, not the same Bailey Falter you remember as the Philadelphia Philly. This guy has improved since
Pretty good.
going to Pittsburgh.
It's
So
been pretty good.
move on to Sunday. It would be Sean Manaea in the mound against TBD for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I believe that was supposed to be the Jared Jones spot, but he had a little bit of a he's got a little bit of an injury thing going on right now, so I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be making that start or not. I would guess
No,
probably
he's on the injured list,
he's
so
on the
no.
injury list. All right, perfect. Don't have to face Jared Jones again. We saw how
Well,
that went in April.
it's not good for my fantasy team, Andrew.
That makes it even better. Makes it even better. And then, like we said, it's a wraparound, so it caps off on Monday afternoon at 12:35. Christian Scott on the mound again against Mitch Keller. So some pretty good arms the Pittsburgh Pirates are throwing out there in this four-game series, which means the offense is going to have to really pick it up.
But we have some good arms too.
But we have
I
some good
mean,
arms too.
Christian Scott versus Mitch Keller is um, a nice one. Obviously, we should have faced um, Jared Jones, so obviously that game maybe a little bit in favor for us. I don't know who they're gonna throw out, but and then I also I think obviously the main attraction is tonight with Severino versus Skeens. But I think that Brady Falter, Dave Peterson matchup's also a pretty nice matchup. Uh, I think I wear. Oh yeah, I have pictures this week.
You got pitchers. I
Yeah,
got offense. I should say, I said the offense needs to pick it up. Obviously, the offense has been very good, but just haven't scored a run since Wednesday night. So
yeah, it's one game, and that you have to say that the hitters aren't necessarily an 11 a.m. game. It's not necessarily something they do often. So it's probably maybe part of maybe a little bit of a lesser offensive game.
That is perhaps the case here, but so let's move on to our players of the series predictions. And obviously we're pitching guys, so pitching always comes first for us, and you got the pitcher for this series,
Yeah.
so the floor is yours yet again.
I think we have to win that game. We have to get a good outing from your fantasy arm, uh, Luis Severino. It pains me to do it because then you get a lot of points and you can be arrogant again because I'm such a good fantasy guy because I was first in picking up ball schemes, which everybody wanted to do, but I was just first. So
I would say if I'm going to brag about anything fantasy wise, it was using my second to last pick on Luis Severino. So
that was a
that's
good. Yes, no doubt. Yeah, you're having a good year, Andrew. You're gonna get up in the playoffs, which we both know. But hey, still having a if you are able to do what I did last year, having a best record and eventually win, I will give you kudos.
all right. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Well,
But Luis Severino, we need it. We need a good outing. Paul Skeens obviously will be tough if you get 1 or 2 runs against that guy. You're probably pleased. So Luis Severino has to keep the Mets into the ball game, and he's going to do that.
well, from an offensive standpoint with the New York Mets, there's a lot of directions you could go in, but sometimes you just got to keep it simple. Just, just keep it simple. So that's why I'm going to go with my boy Brandon Nimmo here. I know there's some lefties with Bailey Falter. Potentially, maybe let's see if they throw Martin Perez if he's healthy and back. Maybe that's an option that the Pirates will go with. But just gotta keep it simple. So let's go with Brandon Nimmo. He had his little scare in the bathroom in DC, and he came back and responded well. I think he's going to carry that momentum over here to Pittsburgh. So let's go with Brandon Nimmo to lead the charge offensively for the New York Mets.
So, and who's your pitcher's pick for others? Could it be Quinn Priester? Isn't he with Pittsburgh? Pitched a couple of games last year, I
Did pitch a
guess.
couple games last year. That is correct. Can't say I'm up to date on everything Pittsburgh Pirates at the moment, but Pittsburgh Pirates. I give the City Connect uniforms a lot of crap. Pittsburgh Pirates got some pretty good City Connect uniforms, so I do have to say that.
And a beautiful stadium.
Oh yeah, definitely, of course. It's one of the best in the big leagues, no doubt about that. This says Martin Perez is healthy. I don't know if he pitched yesterday,
I
but
don't know too.
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, he did pitch yesterday, so he's out. So
He's out.
Quinn Priester also on the 15-day IL at the moment. So
Good.
so we'll see what the
I thought
Pittsburgh Pirates do here.
maybe they throw out a bullpen game or something like that.
That's just
But interesting.
very possible. Very possible.
Yeah.
And you said the Pirates bullpen not that great, so maybe that would be in favor of the New York Mets.
Hope so. Hope so.
So, but we won't find out until the games are actually played, and that starts tonight at 6:40. Get your popcorn ready for Luis Severino and Paul Skeens. So, should be hopefully a fun weekend of baseball as the Mets continue their chase for the third and final wildcard spot in the National League. So, Corne, we thank you for hanging out for a little bit and spreading your wisdom with us, and we hope you enjoy this weekend wraparound series with the Pirates.
Definitely an interesting series, especially I think for us pitching guys. It will be interesting.
There's no question about that. All right, everyone. This has been episode number 24 of the Queen's Connection, a production of Patton Sports Creative. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, Facebook. Just search the Queen's Connection. We'll pop right up. Also, make sure to follow us on YouTube and Spotify, wherever you listen to this podcast, to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. So enjoy this series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. We'll talk to you next week before the Mets return home to play the Washington Nationals.